Power is never announced. It's suggested, whispered, implied, and the most terrifying implication is this: if I wanted to, I could destroy you, but I won't because I don't have to. You walk into a room. You say nothing, but suddenly the atmosphere shifts. People notice you, not because you're loud, not because you beg for their attention, but because there's something about you, unseen, yet undeniable. That is power. And the most terrifying kind is silent. Machiavelli understood this before psychology even had a name. Influence, he knew, is not about persuasion. It's about presence, and presence, when weaponized correctly, is the subtlest form of domination. Look at Napoleon, 5'6", soft-spoken, but when he entered the court, even kings paused. It wasn't what he said, it was what he carried. An aura, a cultivated illusion of inevitability. The message was clear: don't need your approval. I only need your fear. You see, power that talks too much is insecure. Power that announces itself is cheap. The true apex predators, they don't roar, they stalk. They make you feel their gaze before you even hear their footsteps. Have you ever noticed how the most respected man in the room rarely speaks? He observes, he calculates, and when he finally opens his mouth, the room falls quiet. Why? Because silence has already made his words 10 times heavier. Think of Julius Caesar. Before he ever claimed power, he wore it. Carefully, patiently. He aligned himself with the right men, seduced the right women, and let his victories speak for him. He didn't shout his ambition, he cloaked it in charm. But behind the charm, a mind like a knife. And when Rome was ready, he didn't ask. He took. That's what you need to understand. In a world obsessed with talking, the man who masters silence becomes a god. Your voice can be ignored. Your words can be twisted. But your energy, your posture, your eye contact, your stillness, that is an animal language older than civilization. People respond to it without knowing why. In today's world, it's the same game, different board. In the boardroom, the man who doesn't fidget wins. In negotiations, the one who lets silence linger longest usually walks away with more. The job interview, the relationship, the confrontation, it's not about having the perfect words. It's about not needing them. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you entered a room and made people feel something without saying a word? Your average man wants to be liked. That's why he talks too much. He laughs too easily. He fills silence with nervous noise. Because silence feels like rejection to the weak. But the powerful, they know that silence isn't empty. It's a throne. Understand these: power is perception. And perception is theater. People treat you how they interpret you. So, if you want to become a threat without saying a word, you must master what Machiavelli called the appearance of power. Not power itself, the appearance. Because people react to the illusion just as forcefully as they react to the real thing. Think of Kissinger. The man made a career out of playing dumb, slow speech, heavy breath, half-closed eyes. But behind that sleepy facade, a ruthless strategist engineering coups, wars, and peace treaties. He weaponized stillness. He disarmed his enemies with calm. In silence, they projected their fears onto him. And that's the key. When you speak less, they imagine more. They fill in the blanks. And human imagination is always darker than reality. That's how you become dangerous. Stop broadcasting your plans. Start cultivating mystery. The less you say, the more they wonder. The more they wonder, the more power you have, because now you live rent-free in their minds. You've seen it before, the quiet guy who walks past, and suddenly everyone stops joking. The man who says little in meetings, but when he leans forward slightly, the whole table leans with him. Why? Not because he earned their respect, but because he withheld it. Control the air around you, and you control the people within it. But let me ask you, why don't most men do this? Simple, they're afraid. Afraid to be misunderstood. Afraid to be judged. Afraid that if they don't speak, they'll disappear. Let me tell you something raw. If your presence can disappear without words, you never had power to begin with. You want to be a lion. Stop mewing like a house cat. You want to be feared. Stop over-explaining like a schoolboy begging for mercy. You want to be respected. Stop smiling like your life depends on their approval. You were not born to entertain. You were born to conquer. But conquering starts from within. Its stillness is not passive. It's violent. It's the inner war against every insecurity that wants to speak up and justify itself. When you hold silence, you declare, "I am enough." That declaration, louder than 1,000 speeches. The enemy can read your movements before he hears your voice. So what are you broadcasting? Weakness, doubt, or absolute control? You can't fake this. The body doesn't lie. That's why Machiavelli wore need. A man must learn how not to be good. Because if you cling to being liked, being seen as nice, you will always talk too much, reveal too much, and give away your power inch by inch. And one day you'll wonder why people stopped listening. But they never listened. Not really. They just tolerated your noise until someone more silent walked in and stole the room. It's time to become that man. Power is not in your words, it's in your presence. But presence isn't born. It's built, crafted, forged like steel through discomfort, observation, and brutal self-honesty. You want to be a silent threat. Then you must train your aura the same way a warrior trains his blade. And that starts with restraint. Restraint is power's first language. When you can sit through cars and not twitch, when you can be insulted and not react, when you can walk through a crowd and not crave attention. That's when the world begins to bend around you. Because silence under pressure is terrifying. It's not natural. And people fear what they can't predict. Do you know what happens when a man doesn't flinch? Everyone else does. And now their nervous systems start working for him. It's psychological warfare. The less you reveal, the more they assume. And here's the beautiful twist: people always assume the worst. If you look calm in a storm, they think you know something they don't. If you smile at their aggression, they start doubting their own strength. That's not magic. That's strategy. Julius Caesar used this exact principle at the Rubicon. The Senate warned him not to cross it. He said nothing. He simply moved. No threats, no speeches, just action. And by the time they realized what he had done, Rome was his. His silence wasn't weakness. It was domination. Today you can apply this everywhere. In a job interview, don't oversell yourself. Let your silence make them work harder to figure you out. In business, never show how eager you are. Eagerness is the perfume of desperation. In dating, never chase. Never explain your worth. Let them feel the void when you leave. And when you speak, make it rare and make it sharp. A lion doesn't growl at flies, it waits. Then it strikes once. That's how your words must land. Not frequently, but fatally. But let's be honest, Ag, you're not there yet. Right now, your silence feels like awkwardness. Your calm is forced. You're still performing, still hoping to be seen. And the people around you can smell that. So what do? You kill the boy inside you who wants to be liked. That little boy who needs applause, comfort, and approval. He's in your way. He speaks for you. He explains when you should be observing. He laughs nervously when you should be still. Machiavelli would say, a prince must learn how to act like a beast. But today, you act like prey. Too obvious, too soft, too desperate to be understood. You want to be the wolf. Learn to sit in silence and watch. Learn to look a man in the eyes and give him nothing. Let him wonder what you think. Let him sweat in your silence. Because the moment you speak just to fill the gap, you lose. The ancient samurai had a term for these fudoshin, the immovable mind, not swayed by praise, not shaken by threats. Still calm, unblinking. That's how you become untouchable. You know who had this in modern times? Vladimir Putin. Watch him in interviews, always composed, always slow. He doesn't blink more than he needs to. His pauses are weapons. He understands the power of discomfort. and he lets the silence do the talking. Whether you like him or not, his aura has command. And that, my friend, is worth more than any speech. So here's your training first. Master your eyes. Most men scan the room nervously. You look directly, slowly, and deliberately. Never darting, never hiding. Your gaze should feel like a scalpel, not because it's aggressive, but because it's focused, controlled. Second, master your stillness. Every movement you make should be intentional. No fidgeting, no shifting. A man who controls his body signals that he controls his mind. Third, master your entrances and exits. When you walk into a room, don't rush. Let people feel your pace. When you leave, say little. Make your absence speak. Let them realize they missed your energy only after it's gone. Fourth, master your voice. Not just what you say, but how you say it. Speak slowly. Let every sentence breathe. Silence between your words forces people to listen closer. Speak like time bends to you, not like you're racing it. And finally, master your emotions. You think being emotional makes you real. No, it makes you vulnerable. People can only control what they can read, so be unreadable, mysterious. Let them wonder if they even know you at all. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be felt. There's a reason the mafia didn't need long speeches. One look, one gesture, that was enough. That's how real power moves. And let's not pretend this is just for men in suits or dictators. This applies to your life, every job you want, every woman you desire, every negotiation, every confrontation. You are either the presence that controls the room, or you are the background noise no one remembers. And in case you still doubt it, look at history's monsters and monarchs. Look at their portraits. Stone-faced, composed, never smiling. That wasn't an accident. That was branding. Power doesn't grin. It stares, it dares. It controls without touch. You must become the kind of man who can freeze a room with one glance. Not by accident, by design. Because in this world, you will be tested. Provoked, ignored, talked over, doubted. And every time that happens, you have one choice: react and prove your weakness, or remain still and let them feel your strength. No man can become a threat if he's a slave to his ego. The ego always wants to explain, to defend, to be liked. But you will train your ego to shut up. Because the moment you no longer need the room to validate, your room begins to orbit around you. Silence is not empty. It is strategy. It is the breeding ground of awe. So next time you walk into a room, don't speak. Let them feel you. Let them question who you are. Let their curiosity become your leverage. Because by the time they understand your power, it's already too late. You walk past them. They don't know why, but they stand straighter. They watch you longer than they should. They whisper, but never confront. That's when you know you've become the game they didn't even know they were playing. Power, real power, is never announced. It's suggested, whispered, implied, and the most terrifying implication is this: if I wanted to, I could destroy you. But you don't say it. You never have to, because you've already demonstrated it in your restraint. Let me tell you a truth Machiavelli understood better than any modern fool with a motivational quote account. The man who doesn't need to attack is the most dangerous man in the room. Why? Because he controls outcomes without moving a muscle. That's the highest form of domination. Not violence, not yelling, just presence. Think of Marcus Licinius Crassus, Rome's richest man. He controlled not by speaking, but by owning the silence. At meetings, he rarely talked. He made deals through debt, fear, and favors. When people spoke to him, they weren't sure if they were being judged or silently threatened. That's what made him lethal. You want that? Then stop advertising your emotions. In fact, make your emotions your private property. They should be expensive, exclusive, rare. The more people can read you, the more they can use you. You see, modern weakness is disguised as authenticity. We're told, speak your truth, be transparent, let people in. That's a lie, a sedative for slaves. Machiavelli would laugh in your face. He'd say, "Show your heart and you show your leash. You want real power. Here's the paradox: give them nothing, and they'll give you everything. Give them no anger, and they'll fear what's boiling underneath. Give them no compliments, and they'll crave your validation. Give them no explanation, and they'll fill in the blanks with a we or terror." That's how kings are made. Modern analogy. Think of corporate boardrooms. The CEO doesn't need to speak first. He doesn't even flinch when others argue. He lets them burn their energy, expose their egos, reveal their fears. Then, in 5 cold words, he shifts the entire direction of the meeting. That's not charisma. That's Machiavellian gravity. And yet, most men you meet have no gravity. They're light, forgettable. They chase conversations like beggars chasing coins. You don't remember what they said, because none of it mattered. Their words were wind. Yours must be thunder. But here's the key: thunder without noise. And this takes discipline. Self-mastery. You can't posture your way into this kind of presence. You must earn it. Every day, through discomfort, through silence, through knowing that when others feel the need to speak, you can sit still and let the pressure build and build until they break themselves trying to decode you. Have you ever noticed how people confess more when you say nothing? They project, they ramble, they over-explain. You've said nothing, but you've taken control. Now they're dancing around your silence, feeding you information, desperate to break the tension you command. That is manipulation without movement. Now ask yourself, what kind of man are you becoming? Are you still reacting to everything like a child? Still defending your name to fools? Still trying to be understood by people who don't matter? Or are you starting to see the value of mystery? Here's what Machiavelli knew: fear is stronger than love, but confusion is stronger than both. Let people wonder who you are. Let them guess what you want. Let them fear what you might do. Uncertainty is the oxygen of your influence. Remember Richard Nixon, the madman theory. He let world leaders believe he might be unstable enough to do the unthinkable. That ambiguity, it kept his enemies frozen. That silence, it was nuclear, so don't tell them your plan. Don't even tell them you have a plan. Let your calm be unnerving. Let your smile be unreadable. Let your decisions feel like fate. If they don't know where you're coming from, they won't know how to stop you. Now I'm going to say something harsh. Not because it's cruel, but because it's true. If you're not being misunderstood, you're not powerful enough. Powerful men are always misread. Some call them arrogant. Others call them cold. Weak men call them lucky. But no one can pin them down. And that's the point. Your value increases the moment you stop needing to be liked. Not because you become mean, but because you become untouchable. People can only touch what they understand, what they categorize. But when you're beyond labels, you're beyond limits. You become the anomaly in the system, the variable in their formula. And that makes you impossible to prepare for. Think of Bruce Lee. The most dangerous man in the ring wasn't the strongest. It was the one who didn't telegraph his next move. That's what you must become: unreadable, unpredictable, silent, until it's time not to be. And let me tell you, Thistles, when that moment comes, when you finally speak, every word will cut like a blade. Because now, silence has forged you into something rare. And in a world full of noise, rarity is power. They'll say, "I don't know what it is about him," but they'll feel it. In their gut, in their hesitation, in the way they double-check their words around you. You've done what few can do. You've become a threat without ever raising your voice. By now, they feel you. They don't know why their voice drops when you look at them. They don't know why they stumble on their sentences. They don't know why their confidence fractures the moment you enter. But you know, because you trained for this. This is what happens when your energy becomes heavier than your words. when your stillness carries more weight than their opinions, when you have become a psychological presence, an invisible pressure on their nervous system. Now what do you do with this power? You rule, but not like they expect. You don't chase attention. You pull it. You don't demand respect. You extract it. Like a black hole pulling stars into orbit, your presence becomes the gravity in the room. Everyone adjusts to you. This is how empires are ruled without bloodshed. This is how CEOs silence entire boards with one glance. This is how mend reality to their frame without shouting once. You see, true control is never about being the loudest man in the room. It's about being the one everyone checks before they speak. It's about setting the emotional tone without ever opening your mouth. And here's where most people failed. They think power is control over others. Machiavelli knew better. He knew the first conquest must always be yourself. You cannot rule men until you have mastered your own impulse. And that's why restraint remains your greatest weapon. You've heard the phrase, speak softly and carry a big stick. But the modern Machiavellian speaks rarely and is the stick. So let's get tactical. You walk into a room. Do you speak first? No. You let the others scatter their power. You let them flash their egos, compete for relevance. You wait. You observe. And only when the air is thin, when their certainty starts to falter, do you speak. But not to explain. You speak to decide. You speak in commands disguised as suggestions. Here's what I see. Let's move this direction. Notice the tone, not up for debate, not emotional. Cleared, centered, cold. They'll follow, because your voice now carries the weight of your silence. Every room has an emotional thermostat. Most people react to it. You set it. If you're calm, they'll calm. If you're tense, they'll tense. If you're composed in chaos, they'll follow your stillness like a lifeline. That is environmental leadership. Silent dominance. Psychological territory control. But it only works if you stop chasing moments and start becoming the moment. Look at Napoleon. He didn't command loyalty through charm. He didn't beg for trust. He walked with such decisive certainty, men followed him into cannons. Why? Because when others paused, he moved. When others doubted, he decided. His presence was proof of his victory before the first shot was fired. That's what you're building. Now let me say this clearly, the world will resist you. Weak men will call you arrogant. Emotional people will call you cold. Loud leaders will feel threatened by your silence. Let them. They don't have to understand you. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be effective, and effectiveness is rare, misunderstood, hated by the insecure. But here's what happens in the end: when the dust settles, when the noise fades, when the loud ones have burned out their energy. You remain, like a statue in a storm. That's when they come back to you. That's when they ask for your opinion, your guidance, your leadership. Why? Because your silence made them feel something their noise never could: security. They will never say it out loud, but they will follow you, because you didn't demand to be followed. You earned it. By mastering what most men can't even comprehending, the psychological manipulation of perception through aura, restraint, and timing. And here is the final truth Machiavelli would whisper if he sat across from you now. The most feared man is not the loudest, he is the one whose silence makes others tremble. So now I ask Jung, when you walk into a room, will you fill it with noise like the rest? Or will you let the silence do your talking? Will you explain your power to the world? Or let the world bend around your mystery? Because real threats don't speak. They're felt, and if you've understood what I've told you, deeply, honestly, ruthlessly, then you are no longer just a man. You are a presence, a force, a quiet war. And that, my friend, is how you become a threat without saying a single word.